Welcome to the Friendly Frequencies podcast. I am your host, Carmen McLeod. I am traveling the world as an artist and tour guide, and along the way I am documenting my journey of personal development, self-reflection, and spiritual growth. Through my stories, I hope to inspire you to create the life of your dreams and remind you how powerful you truly are in this world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of transcendent transformation. Hello. I'm really excited to bring to you another interview. This month February has been the month of interviews. This is my third one, and I'm super excited for you to hear it because this man, Matthew Finlin, is so inspiring. He has created such abundance in his life, and I'm so excited to share it with you. I'm super inspired by him. We have a lot in common. And he's the first person to reach out to me to be on my podcast who I didn't know prior to meeting. I just met him basically on the podcast. But he's also from Vancouver, which is where I'm from. So we had a great conversation. He is the founder of the Human Potential Academy, which is like a mentorship program that centers around the 5 pillars of human potential. And these 5 pillars are the financial, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual pillars. In this episode, he talks about how he came up with these 5 pillars. He created this model himself and has centered his entire career around teaching them to other people and to inspire other people and coach them into creating abundance in their life around these 5 pillars. And talks about his own personal experiences with the ones that he struggled with, and it just gets really juicy. We get really into all sorts of conversations around money and around spirituality, how spirituality and science are really linked and they're not separate the way that a lot of people think. So without further ado, get ready for an amazing interview with Matthew Finlin. You're going to love it. Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Friendly Frequencies podcast. I have a special guest here, Matthew Finlin. He reached out to me a number of weeks ago and just happened to stumble across my podcast, and I was lucky enough for him to reach out and ask if he could join me on an episode. And I looked at his, what he's doing in the world, and I was just so excited immediately because it's so in alignment with my life, my upbringing, and just what I'm all about. And you know how obsessed I am with personal development and all of these things and spiritual growth. And I think that he has a beautiful intersection of the two. So I'm really excited for you to get to know him. So first things first, and I'm going to do this properly this time because I've integrated a new thing where I start with an intention for the episode. So I'm just going to state what my intention is for this, and it could be completely different from what Matthew's is. But before I get him to introduce himself, my intention for the episode is to share knowledge with other people on alternative forms of education and about what's out there and what's possible and what kind of programs there are to help people in their life and meet them wherever they're at, and just to perhaps plant a seed for any possibilities in your life. So I'll pass it over to Matthew. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're up to, how you got here?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Matthew Finlin. I'm the founder of Human Potential Academy and a program called 100 Days of Discipline. And how I got here, how I got on this podcast was I found you. I found you online. I can't remember what I was looking up or how the paths crossed, but when I saw you and saw what you were about, I definitely knew I wanted to get on there and talk with you and get into a container here with you. And yeah, I arrived at my with this coaching academy just by, largely like what you're doing. Like I traveled for a handful of years, and I was much more involved in like sales and business stuff when I was out in Asia. And then I've been working on my theory of the 5 pillars of human potential: the financial pillar, physical pillar, emotional pillar, mental pillar, and spiritual pillar. And when I was out in Asia, pretty much a series of events happened that really, really brought them all together. And then it turned into more of a business model in the final years of 2021, when I was helping spiritual entrepreneurs, wellness entrepreneurs, breath work, yoga. I was helping them do better business. I was helping them with the sales and the business and the negotiation and the structuring side of things. And it evolved into what it is today.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize that the 5 pillars of success was from you, that you like, this is your theory that you came up with.
Yeah. The 5 pillars of human potential. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's, yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I was really intrigued and really excited to ask you about that. And okay, I'm just gonna get right into it then. Oh no, I wanted to ask you, what is your intention for the episode? I almost forgot again. But do you have an intention? If you need some time to think about it, you can always state it later in the episode. But what is it that you would love to get from this episode, or love to? What is the impact that you want to have through this episode?
Yeah, I think my intention when I feel into it is I just want to spread the message of what we're doing, reach as many people as possible. And while I've been attending these podcast episodes, it's been amazing, some of the things that have come up. And so I really just enjoy the experience a lot of kind of being guided through and asked these types of questions. So I suppose, yeah, my intention is for the message to reach more ears and for to like enjoy the experience of the container that you're holding today.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I want to integrate this more into my episodes, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see how the difference is between what is the intention we set, and it can be completely different than how the episode even turns out. And I think that that's just really interesting how, and also how my intention can be completely different from what yours is. And I just think I just really got into intention setting in my life recently in the last few months. Before every episode, I'm setting an intention. I'm always writing it down. I'm always usually forgetting to say it on the episode, but, I think that it's really powerful to set intentions, because especially when it comes to these podcasts, I always want to make sure that I'm not just talking. I want there to be a reason for it. And I really want to make sure that I'm grounded in what it is that I'm wanting to bring with this episode, and put it out there, and not be attached to how it actually does impact people or how it does turn out. So that's kind of my story around that. So let's get into these pillars, because I'm really excited about it. Is there anything more that you can elaborate on them? Yeah, if you could maybe go into each one, tell us a bit about each one. Yeah, really excited.
Sure. Yeah, cool. It's definitely been like organic in its development. It came to me in, goodness, I'm not sure if it was a meditation or a dream, those ones. I'm not sure what it was, but it just like came through me. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I was kind of floating it by people. It's like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And it stuck with like every person I spoke to. Like it just resonated with them, whether they were like a Christian or they were like a business person or they were just like a gym bro. When I said the 5 pillars of human potential, their reaction was just like, yes. And that was like really affirming. And then over the years, I've been kind of like obviously financial pillars, pretty obvious. Physical pillars, pretty obvious. But then you start getting into the emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it's like, is that emotional? Is that spiritual? Is that mental pillar? Like kind of what is that? And so that's obviously definitely been a work in progress. And there is a lot of crossover. So for example, like my favorite one to look at is like cold therapy, right? Like cold water. Is that mental pillar, or is it physical pillar, or is it emotional pillar? And the answer is it's all three for sure.
Yeah.
I like to equate that one specifically to mental pillar because I believe that it takes like a lot more. Like everybody can go into that, right? It helps with emotions for sure. but it takes a lot of like kind of like grit and it's kind of, I don't know. I've been doing it for a few years now, and I still get like anxiety before I go in to do it, even though 100% of the time I feel great after it. So, um, financial pillar is fairly straightforward. It's your ability to make money. It's your ability to manage money. It's like pretty much everything to do with money. Um, and then there, of course, is crossovers there because um, in order to make money, it involves other people, right? Like that's one of the things about money is it always involves another person. So there's definitely a mental and emotional aspect to it as well. But when you think financial pillar, it's pretty straightforward.
Mm.
Same with physical pillar, very straightforward as well. Physical pillar is really easy to break down though. From my observation, it's water, diet, sleep, exercise. And when you have those four things, you're able to build a strong foundation, a strong structure. And how I've been working through the other three, the emotional, mental, and the spiritual, is through two types of lenses. And keep in mind, this is still like, while it's something that I do teach and we teach at Human Potential Academy, we've got a very good grasp on it. It's almost kind of like physics or something, or like neuroscience, where we're like we pretty sure we've got it here, but then once in a while something comes along, we're like, oh, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board a little bit for it. One of the ways, at least when I'm first like introducing it to people, is you can think of them as like three voices inside your head. So like I like to think of like the physical pillar as like the temple, that the emotional pillar, the mental pillar, and the spiritual pillar are inside, and they're conversing inside. And I've kind of used that to make certain life decisions, which has served me actually quite well. And so the emotional pillar is very, very almost it's kind of like two components to it, but it's the easiest way to think of the emotional pillar is as like emotional quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence. So like how well do you how well do you comprehend others' emotions, and which again can get blurred in with the mental pillar. So you can kind of see this, but the emotional pillar really is that kind of like you can almost think of that as like the divine feminine, and then the masculine as the divine, the mental as the divine masculine, where the mental pillar is very much like, your intelligence. How easy is it for you to learn, remember, and then execute on the information that you've learned? Kind of like grit. The mental pillar like helps the emotional pillar by learning first and foremost. By learning about the emotions, by being that regulator of the emotions. And then the spiritual pillar is obviously out of all of them potentially the most ambiguous, but how we've broken it down is there's like there's a few different arenas to kind of go down with it. I say that free will is the bridge between the mental pillar and the spiritual pillar. It's the bridge between the two. In terms of like awareness, awareness is the foundation of religion. It's the foundation of spirituality. It's the foundation of psychology. I look at things on like a spectrum, where on one end you have neuroscience, and then as you go towards the other end, it goes psychology, and then it goes philosophy, and then it goes spirituality. And it's on one big spectrum. You can't really separate them, but on one end you have spirituality, and on the other end you have like the brick and mortar of the mental pillar.
Yeah.
And so the spiritual pillar is a few different ways to describe it, but if we were to describe it as like what is that? Those books like Spiritual Pillar for Dummies. It would be something along the lines of like you are engaging in practices that are doing things that would be like regulating your nervous system, dropping you down into like a alpha brainwave state so that you can get the downloads. And more importantly, recognizing when that inner voice inside of you is your intuition pulling you somewhere, opposed to like a trauma pulling you somewhere, and then guiding, going with it. That's like a definitely a sign of someone that has like a very intact spiritual pillar. When I was really beginning to like unlock mine, especially with business stuff, it was where it was the most obvious, because it was like decisions that made no logical sense, seemingly like lacked emotion, but I knew that's what I had to do. And then I acted upon it, and I had like my first 5-digit month in business within a couple of weeks of that, and another one, and it didn't make any sense, but there it was happening. And so, yeah, that would probably be in a nutshell, the 5 pillars. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And I, on the money and the spiritual side, I think those are very linked as well. And I wanted to bring it back to the money at first. And I also wanted to ask, is there a link that you have in the course around the spirituality side of money, the energetics of money, kind of how before we hit record, I told you about some money blocks that I had before, and is that something that you go over? Can you tell us a little bit more about the money side of things and that?
Totally. So one of the things that we've been, at least I've been doing this, I haven't brought this forward to the whole team yet, but I've been like drawing out how they affect each other. And so there's like one web of like negative effects, and then there's another web of positive effects. And so right now, there's so many like life coaches that they teach pretty much everything except the financial pillar. And if your financial pillar is not in a good state, good luck with your emotional pillar. Like,
Yeah.
All these like spiritual coaches and all that. It's like, you can be the most like grounded, centered person, but if you can't pay rent or buy food at the end of the month, you're going into high beta brainwave. And if you're going into high beta brainwave, your emotional pillar, your mental pillar, and your spiritual pillar are out of whack. You can't tune into God because you're in a high beta brainwave. You're in an animalistic fight or flight protective state. Mm-hmm. And so I can certainly talk about the connection between the spiritual and the financial. It is actually quite similar and quite simple. You are correct. Mm-hmm. But I really want to bring a point of saying that, like, when the financial people, there's this like unfortunate, almost like, money is evil going around a lot in the spiritual community. Yeah. And it's not, it's just a tool, right? It always has been, it always will be. It's just a tool. And we can use, we can use the pitchfork to like till the land, or we can use it to attack our fellow man. And it's just a tool. Mm-hmm. And when the financial pillar is really in a bad position, it affects the emotional pillar. Then the emotional pillar affects the mental and the physical pillar. Mm-hmm. And then, you don't have a house or an energy or a physical body for the spiritual pillar to come through. So It is quite important. And there's obviously connections directly made between the root chakra and money. And it's the safety, it's the base, it's the roots. So in terms of the spiritual financial connection, it's quite simple because it is energy. And it is, it's like if you engage in proper spiritual, it's so cool, all the connections. Like, let's say you engage in proper spiritual form, proper spiritual practice. Let's say you're meditating daily, you're doing, whatever it is that you need to be doing. More than I know what you need to be doing. God tells you, hey, I really need to be doing this thing. And then if you go and you do that, you're going to start attracting people in your life. You're going to start attracting opportunities in your life. You're going to start like getting things that you need, usually like right when you need them, but you always get them. God always pulls through when you're there.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing with money. And we have this kind of joke. I have this joke. No one else laughs at it, but with our coaching, like right now, especially in Western societies, we've fractaled all of these different arenas. And so it's like, if you want to lose weight and you go to a personal trainer, well, if you're really stressed out, you got a whole bunch of cortisol in your body. You can eat the best food, you can exercise, drink enough water, sleep. You're stressing out. The cortisol is going to cause your body to retain everything. So you need to go to a therapist. And say you're depressed, you go to a therapist, but you're eating terrible food, you're not sleeping properly, and you're not exercising, you got to go to a personal trainer. And so we've fractaled all of these different arenas, and we've got all these different professionals and specialties, and it's amazing the depth of the knowledge that they've got, but there's massive holes in their methods for helping the human. And that's one of the main driving forces behind the five pillars of human potential in our program. And so, with regards to money, the joke that we make is like, if you want to make $10,000 in your business, for an example, if you're an entrepreneur, the first question that we ask is, how's the relationship with your father? And then the entrepreneurs will be like, whoa, like, what do you mean? I need to learn sales, or like, I need to like get more leads. And we're like, sure, but you're just going to blow it anyways. Like, it doesn't even matter, because we need to address the wound that you have around your own self-worth and value. And so anyways, yeah, a lot of the times people will come to me for entrepreneurial help, and over our like, whatever it is, 12 or 14 week program, it's usually like 8 to 9 weeks of psychology that we actually talk about. And then their businesses just skyrocket afterwards.
Wow. Oh, that's incredible. I'm so excited. I have so many questions more. Thank you for talking about the link between the spiritual and the money. I think I really, I'm thinking about all of the links between all of them, and how interesting that is. And I definitely want to talk more about this. What would you say is the pillar or you can name a few, but what would you say is the number one pillar that you think that you've struggled with the most? And have you had any breakthroughs around any of these? I'm sure you have, but anything you want to talk about there?
Yeah. So for me, it's pretty obvious, but I've got two. And for me, it's emotional pillar, definitely struggled with the most. And then shortly after that is financial pillar. I feel that my mental and my physical pillar have always been quite intact, especially my mental pillar. And then I've always had a really good connection with God, with the universe. Not always, sorry, I shouldn't say always. Once I opened my eyes, it was very good and has stayed very good since then. I've had major breakthroughs with them. In terms of financial pillar, I believe in, and it's starting to look like there's actually scientific evidence to back these things up. But so in like the Bible, for example, it says like the curses of your fathers and your forefathers and the fathers before them for 4 generations. And now we're starting to find out that psychological traumas can actually get passed down in our genes. So if someone, say a woman goes through a horrific trauma and then she has a daughter, well, that daughter might be certain ways around certain types of people, and that can actually get passed down. And as we definitely are seeing the financial generational curse is definitely something that happens. And so I don't come from a lot of money. I come from an absolutely amazing, blessed home. Both my parents were around. They loved me. They did a phenomenal job. In hindsight, couldn't see that when I was in my teenagers, like no one can. but um, I would just start with like the financial pillar. However, given the like decisions that I've made and the actions that I've took and the career path that I chose, I made a lot of mistakes the first like 8 years in my career. Um, like I didn't even know about business taxes, which is one of the like what do we want to do at Human Potential Academy? We want to teach kids about taxes and how to meditate, you know?
Yeah.
But so the financial pillar was a big one for me, but I'm certainly feeling very geared up and ready to receive all of the blessings that are on their way, that are already happening and are on their way. And then the emotional pillar for me, I had a really interesting set of variables, which is that I was an only child, and I grew up like 6 kilometers outside of my town of 3,000 people. So 3,000 people, and I grew up 6 kilometers outside of it, like didn't have internet for a long time. And I was out there. And so I had, on one hand, it was amazing because I had imagination. I had parents that loved me. You know, I got secure attachment style, and the imagination has helped me become like a visionary within business and all these amazing things. But then on the other hand, I didn't develop the emotional quotient that comes with living and growing up with siblings, and then also growing up in the town that I was in. I was always kind of like an outsider. Like there was kind of like 3 cliques in my small town. There was like the band kids and the math kids, and there was the sports kids, and there was the like party on the weekend kids. And I did all 3 of those quite well, which was cool because I was like kind of friends with everybody, but like I wasn't like on the in crowd with everybody. And so I kind of like didn't really have my tribe. I didn't really have the people that I fit in with. And that was for the first, 18 years of my life. And then I moved to the city. And so I just had like a really interesting kind of experience growing up with the lack of certain emotional things that I had to, I guess, even deal with and grow through that come along with siblings. And then as a result, like, I would bounce around and like have different friend groups, but for a short amount of time. And then, we wouldn't vibe or whatever. And I'd move on, I'd move on, I'd move on. And I was able to develop it because of starting my career in door-to-door sales, where I was, talking to 100 people a day, every day for 3-4 years. But where it really got developed for me was when I was promoted into the manager position, which was actually quite early in my career. And then I had to train people. And I was really like getting more involved in like the leadership aspect of things. And recently, actually, I would say I've gone through like the probably most like transformative, probably like 10, 11 weeks of my entire life, especially in the emotional pillar. And this is thanks to a business retreat I went to in Mexico, which honestly, if I spoke about now, it would be the entirety of our conversation. Shout out Black Sheep Masterminds. Absolutely shout out Black Sheep Masterminds, Alexander Eddy. And then after that, because of my team at Human Potential Academy. So Brian Carew, Baymir Flores, Selena Shue, L. Honeycutt, Spencer DeVolin. We went through a lot, and I just am really grateful for them, as well as like my ability to actually hear what my team is saying to me and then really sit with it. And it feels like now actually so many people, I have so many people to credit for this. A handful of my students, Kelly, Kylie, Alexander, one of the owners of Black Sheep, Zoe, Grace, so many people have helped me to like bring my message from my heart instead of from my head. And so many people for years have been like telling me this, right? And you like people telling you things, but you're like, yeah, like I get it, but they're not really helping me to do it. And that's a really, I think, an impossible thing to actually help people to do. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But how I've been able to shift in these past couple of weeks is when we all have something to say, And I would literally be looking up as if to look up into my mind, like
Mm.
help me formulate this thought in a way that people are going to understand. And it comes out accurately. Um, but it comes out at like the speed and almost ferocity of my mind, which has
Mm.
its time and place. But now what I'm literally bringing my focus and attention to bringing my message from my heart, and it's slower. It appears to be more calming, and it feels a lot nicer when I do it. It's funny because I was out. I can't remember went for dinner with someone from the team the other day, and at first I was like, still talking from my mind. And they said that they felt like they had to be alert and sharp and like pay
Mm.
attention. And so that has its time and place, especially as like the CEO of a company. Like, if we need to go do something or something like that, say, okay, call to arms. Like, let's go, let's shift
Yeah.
right now.
Mm.
Right. And then I just like shifted the energy, and it was like, everyone could feel it. And so yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, that's
it's been really
incredible.
cool.
Yeah, I want to know more about this breakthrough from your head to your heart. Like, is there any more details you can get into about what was was it like a moment, just almost like a moment of breakthrough where it just shifted for you, or was it a longer process through this course, or can you give any more details about how that happened?
Yeah, I can. I would say it was like a series of events. And the first one was actually quite like scientific in nature. And it was where I learned about something called sensory neurites. And then I began training heart brain coherence. And so sensory neurites are we have sensory neurites all over our body. They're like the neurons. When like we touch something hot, you react and pull away, and you do that like it doesn't send a message to your brain that says that's hot, pull away, or you're going to get burnt. You act before the message even goes, and those are called sensory neurites. They're stents, right? They sense. I'm doing something on the video right now for people listening, but they sense like things, and I'm touching them.
Yeah.
I'm a real pro. Um, and what they discovered is obviously we it's very common knowledge now about the massive amounts of neural activity going on in the gut. But what they did is they actually found like a cluster, a cluster of about 50,000 of these sensory neurites in the heart. And so scientists have actually coined it the little brain. And it's shown that the heart sends lots of like direct messages right to the brain, boom, right to the brain. And so I have this whole theory on that's actually where I think consciousness comes from. I've got a few different reasons for that. Some scientific, some like more esoteric and spiritual about it. But really bringing my attention to that was really like the first step, I would say, because that's like I believe that's where the intuition comes from and all these types of things. So that really helped me as like a foundation, and then different breathwork techniques and different like practices of awareness. Like a lot of people practice heart brain coherence, but they aren't even aware of the sensory neurites. And that's one thing that I found a lot when talking to people in the spiritual community is when I'm like, oh, like here's the science behind, like here's what just happened. They're like, oh my God, like I had this breakthrough. And I'm like, yeah. And I break it down, like show them the science, and they're like, wow, like so it's not just like woo woo, like there's actually some science behind it. It's actually an explanation. Um, so that was like the first thing, and then I would say that uh, really like bringing together the Human Potential Academy team and having them really over the course of months and months, like steering me towards like the heartfelt leadership. And then like while going through my own like awareness journey and really recognizing like, oh, okay, like this is the trauma from my childhood that's causing me to use my mind and causing me to like maybe be like a little bit short or a little bit brash or just certain areas like that. And then I went to this Black Sheep Mastermind retreat and had like a series of events and people help me with these things. one of them was with this phenomenal intuitive healer coach named Dr. Dibby. She came in as a guest speaker, and it was just like an absolutely magical experience. And she really helped me. She got me into a theta brainwave state. For people that know what that is, it's essentially like a hypnotic state. And she was doing her thing, and it ended up being like a really transformative experience. And I kept grounding in the word grace when I was there, like grace, grace, grace. And after that happened, I went out onto the rock with this other person that was attending there. And she said to me, cause one of the things that I was like struggling with was like, people not listening to my advice for them, mm-hmm. people not hearing my words. Cause I believed that I had some keys that would help them. And I see people that I love struggling, and then they're not listening to what I have to say, and what I have to say is going to help them stop struggling. And I was like, and she just said the words to me, like, cause I was kind of like, I was going through this difficult time, I guess you could say, of like, if I am tailoring my message so that people like the way it sounds, I'm not speaking my real raw expression of it. And I'm actually like manipulating the message so that it's received by them. Right. And I was going through this, like, is that the right thing to do? Is that the wrong thing to do? I don't really know. Cause I went through all these things, like being a salesperson, where I like really learned, like, you know, the dark arts, so to speak, in terms of communication. And then I was really like, okay, like, I don't really want to go down that, like, that route of being able to convince a person of something, like whether they want it or need it or not. Mm-hmm. And so I was really kind of like pulled in this other direction then. And so you could see how I'm sitting in the middle here. And then I came to this kind of conclusion of, it's like, that's why I learned those things. Because what she said to me was, how would it feel if every single time you gave someone advice, their response was something like, oh my goodness, that sounds so good. Can you please tell me more? And I like lived into that experience about how it would feel. And it felt like so good. And so then I came back to Canada and began integration. And that was pretty much like a 10 to 12 week process, which just seems to come to its conclusion this past Wednesday. Yeah. So like less than a week ago at this point. And like another thing that ended up coming up was a series of events between myself and the team at Human Potential Academy, where we had, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like inevitable friction when you're bringing a whole bunch of people together. The company's moving at a very fast pace. So people are, you know, don't want to get left out of certain things, and all these, just so many different things were coming up. And I honestly was taking on too much. And then because I was taking on too much, I was like, I wasn't telling everyone everything that was going on, but I didn't even have enough time to tell everyone everything that was going on. And I didn't feel that everyone needed to know everything that was going on. And then that's like one of like a handful of other things that came up. And then we kind of went through it all together. And my big like emotional trauma is around being abandoned, being betrayed, because I'm an only child and I'm by myself. And so like, I don't have family, right? Like, I have my mom and my dad, but when I don't have them, I don't have anyone. And so then again, not being accepted as a child by a lot of my peers and all these types of things. And so it was causing me to act in certain types of ways. And I needed to arrive at this place, which is so typical of like a spiritual journey, where it's like, I actually, when we were having like some friction amongst the team, I actually got to this place where I was like, even if, like, say everybody were to quit, which would be just, is not going to happen, I was like, okay with it. And it was like the first time in my life where I was like, oh, like, I'm actually okay with whatever happens. And no matter what happens, I still love these people and I'm still going to support them. And God's got me and I'm going to be okay. Because I have been 100% of the times that I've gone through any sort of abandonment, any sort of breakup, losing friends, relationships, business partners, businesses. I've lost it all before, and I always come out the other end better. And I could just kind of just arrived at this place where I was like, yeah, like I'm actually okay with losing it all. And then it's like as soon as that happened, genuinely being okay with it, it just like locked everything in. And it was like I kind of like I arrived at this place of like emotional peace and power.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks.
for,
That was great. It was,
yeah.
yeah, that was great.
Thank you. That was great. That was excellent. I really love to hear about your breakthroughs. That course sounds really amazing. I'm definitely going to look into it. It seems almost similar to a course that I took called Next Level, which just like, it's almost like, yeah, you can't even get into it because it's just it's like, okay, no, it's too much. I can't, that'll take the whole episode. But there's a few things that you said that I wanted to come back to there.
Yeah.
First thing, okay, this is way back when you started that section of it, was you said once I opened my eyes, and I think you were talking about your almost like a spiritual awakening that you had. You said that you were disconnected from your spirituality until you opened your eyes. I would just like to bring it back to that. Is there anything more you can talk about in that area?
Yeah, I can. So, yeah, kind of like I grew up with like a really vivid imagination. And I think that's like a critical thing for kids to have. And I think it's like seriously something that they're being robbed of right now because they have so much stimulation and they don't need their imagination because of like the quality of, video games and all these types of things. But that played a really important part, I believe. And then there was, I went to Bible camp when I was younger and wasn't really like, into the whole God thing, but I had the imagination and I could kind of feel like something's going on here. And so I'd pray sometimes, but it was typical kid type praying, like, God, please give me this thing that I want, right? Please don't let this bad thing happen to me. Just asking for favors instead of asking for like help with whatever it is that he lays out in front. And so I kind of had that thing going on. And then when and I'm just kind of listing out because there was like two like really defining moments out of the five. So I listed two. The third one was when I first started studying neuroscience and training teams. I was also at the time dating someone who was a born again Christian, and she was showing me like the creationist aspect of the neuroscience, and I was looking at all these things, and I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, this is all actually starting to kind of make sense. And then fast forward a handful of years later, I guess it was about 5 years ago now. And I'd already been formulating my 5 pillars of human potential theory at this point. And then I had a specific medicine journey that was really unbelievable. And it was like one of the most real experiences of my life. And after that experience, I did like some research. I realized where I went and what I saw when I was there and who I was talking to when I was there. And it was like I could really start to hear that intuition voice now. And I would play with it. So when I went to Asia, this voice would be like, hey, Matt, like, and it was interesting because it's like, hey, Matt, if you go out and drink and party and network tonight, it's not going to go well for you. And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways. Right. And then I would go and it'd be a shit show, of course. And then there'd be other times where he'd be like, I wouldn't want to go. And he'd be like, you should actually go there tonight. And I'd be like, and I'd go and then it'd be awesome. And I'd just like playing with these different, like, not listening to the voice, listening to the voice, blessings, catastrophe, playing with it, listening to it. And then the final one that really, really kickstarted it for me was when I started exercising calisthenic body workout every single day. So one of my best friend Luke, we own the 100 Days of Discipline together now as a byproduct of it. I was pretty much off of one of the most ridiculous New Year's Eves I've ever had. And it was like January 2nd, I was hungover, January 3rd, January 4th, like still seriously, like went to the hospital. I thought something was wrong. Like, no, January 5th, finally crawled out of my cave, just feeling like you could imagine I'd be feeling. And opened up my phone and there's my friend Luke, and he's on like day 63 out of 100. He's posting every day as accountability, and he's jacked. I was kind of like, you know what? Like, what am I doing? What is going on right now? I was like, I started. So it was January 7th, 2020. I started exercising, and it unlocked my physical pillar. And what happened was when I brought that discipline into my physical pillar, it was pretty much like I had like a raging fire of a spiritual pillar, and it just put jet fuel, rocket fuel on it. It was like wham. And what happened was the disciplinary action of like taking care of my temple, it bled into my financial pillar. I stopped procrastinating. I was just attacking the to-do list. It bled into my emotional pillar. The amount of love that you have to give for others is directly reflective of the amount of love that you have to give for yourself. And self-discipline is the highest form of self-love, because you're essentially trading your comforts for today for the love that you have for yourself tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so I like to think of like the amount of love that you have to give to someone is corresponds with how much love you have to give for yourself. And you are the vessel. So do you have a cup of water to give? Do you have a bowl? Do you have a bathtub? Do you have a pool? Do you have an ocean? What's your capacity for how much love you've got to give for others? And, the relationship with my father became the best it's ever been. I have way more patience for my loved ones because I had more patience for myself. I was more grateful for others because I was more grateful for myself. And then that really just unlocked it. And it's been the past 3 years kind of leading up to the story that I told you just before this.
Oh man. Wow. Thanks for that. That's beautiful. And you mentioned again about the download that you had, or I wanted to bring it back to the download that you had that created these pillars.
Yeah.
Can you give any more details about how that came through? Because see that one stuck out to me. There's definitely a lot of similarities that you and I have. And one big one is that a lot of like where I am today is based on a series of epiphanies and spiritual downloads and messages from God just dropping on my lap. And my intuition telling me something, I'm just listening and I'm acting on it. And I could see that you're in the same situation where you've created your life based around trusting your intuition and your spiritual pillar being in such a good shape. And I'd love to hear can you tell us about the event that actually led you to come up with all of this? This is like all of this is genius. Like I want to know what happened there.
Thank you. My goodness. Honestly, like it just landed in my lap. Really, truly. Like it just like came through, and it was like 5 pillars. And I was like, oh, like it really, there wasn't like a method to it. This one wasn't like Matt sat down and pondered. It was like, I can't even remember if it was a dream or a meditation. It just came through like a light in the dark. It was just like, boom, 5 pillars of human potential. And I wrote it down either the next day or when I came out of the meditation. I can't even remember. And I started talking to people about it. Yeah. And I mentioned that it was it just came through. Yeah. There wasn't anything to it. Yeah.
It's incredible. Wow. And I think that you said that when you focused on the physical aspect of your health, then it skyrocketed your spiritual. So I assume that you had figured out the physical side of things with yourself. And then it was later on that this happened, that this download came through, or was it like before? Or
it was before. It was before. Yeah, it was actually well before I had unlocked my physical pillar that I got the download about the 5 pillars. Yeah, which is funny, right? Because like one thing that happens, and this is one of the reasons why I think there's too many people being coaches that shouldn't be coaches right now. Because knowledge it's a really important thing, but knowledge without action is not only useless, it's actually detrimental. And so I'm teaching about the 5 pillars of human potential, but then I'm going partying so hard that I'm out of commission for 5 days. And that creates what's called cognitive dissonance. And when you have cognitive dissonance, your thoughts and your actions don't agree. and it causes chaos in the brain. It just causes chaos in your mind, causes chaos in decision making. Um, it's one thing to have imposter syndrome. It's another thing to be an imposter. And so I was struggling, I was playing that game. And so, it was one of those things where just that action led into it. And I think that cause what happened was it was 100 days of calisthenics. And then after that, I did a 100-day challenge of yoga and meditation. So in those 200 days, I went to I built up the strength that I'd never had, fixed my posture. And then I went into 100 days of yoga and meditation. I posted it every single day. They're all on my Instagram. You can scroll down and see them. And so, yeah, you can see how that's a really natural kind of progression for all these coming together.
Mm. Wow, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Man, there's so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to also ask you, when you mentioned that consciousness comes from the sensory neurites, you said that you had a little theory on that.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more? I'm curious.
Sure. So I'm not sure exactly that it comes from the sensory neurites, but they are in there. I believe that consciousness comes from the heart. And the only reason, there's a few reasons for that. One of them is that we have no idea where consciousness comes from, and we cannot find it in the brain, and we've been looking. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is you see it in a lot of ancient texts. It never, at least from what I've found, I haven't found anything that says follow your gut, go with your gut. I think that gut instinct thing is a new thing we've been saying. It's always follow your heart. David was a man after my own heart. They talk about the heart a lot. Ancient Egyptians also kept the heart in the body when they mummified. When they were made mummies, they took everything else out. They pretty much scrambled the brain. They took the different organs and put them in these things called coptic jars, but they kept the heart in the body. And then now the more scientific explanations are, I guess, is that one being the direct messages from the heart to the brain. But one of the coolest ones I would say is that there's a lot of people talking about universe is this energetic soup that we're swimming in every day because we're surrounded by electricity and different atoms and all these different types of things. And our heart produces an electromagnetic field that it's the shape of a toroid. I don't know if you're familiar. That's the donut shape, and it produces this electromagnetic field. And it is remarkably larger than the electromagnetic field that our brain produces. And our brain produces something like I don't want to misspeak. I should know these numbers, but I think it's something like 72 trillion or 72 trillion millivolts, something like that. We've all seen The Matrix, right? Where they're harvesting us for the electricity from our brains. And the brain is just an immensely powerful biochemical battery. Yet the electromagnetic field that our heart produces is immensely larger. And so that's what I think is going on. I think it's grabbing and bringing in these frequencies, and then the messages is coming through to our brain, where we then decipher it.
So in boiled down, consciousness really is in the heart. Is your theory it comes from the heart?
But we don't know. That's the big thing. That's the big thing is we don't know. And it could be that our consciousness as us as an individual is found somewhere in our brain, because a part of our experience and how we make decisions and stuff is based off of memory, right? But then the God consciousnness or higher self consciousness or whatever, intuition about where we should go and where we shouldn't go, probably comes from the heart. I don't know if you've seen any of these videos of you've obviously heard about the tsunamis and all the animals running for the hills. There's an earthquake way off, they run for the hills in Turkey recently. there's videos of birds doing all this weird stuff right before the earthquakes hit. And so that's coming from somewhere. There's some sort of like thing that is guiding us as animals, as humans, before things actually happen, with no sort of like data to draw on. And I think that at the very least comes from the heart.
Mm. Wow, that's really interesting. Mm. Okay. Let's bring it back to your organization. So
Cool.
I know, so you mentioned about that in your mission of your organization, it does say that the science and spirituality exist on the same spectrum. And I'm glad that you touched on this earlier. You said something that I think had a really great, that really linked with that, which was when you were talking about the pillars, you mentioned that there's a spectrum, and you kind of like laid it out for us.
Yeah.
I'd love it if you could elaborate more on that, if there's anything more to talk about that area of things.
I mean, yeah, there certainly is. I think you're referring to when I said like neuroscience into psychology, into philosophy, into spirituality, and how that's on a spectrum.
Yeah.
And how I'm under the understanding that free will is the bridge from our mental pillar into our spiritual pillar, right? We have to be willing to learn. We have to be willing to execute. We have to be willing to do that cold dip when we don't want to do that cold dip. We have to be willing to meditate. It takes mental prowess to do those types of things. In terms of the science and spiritual crossover, honestly, like as time goes on, more and more things are coming out. Like we're proving things with modern day neuroscience that they were talking about in India 7,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, we proved that thing. And then they're like, yeah, but we could talk about this for thousands of years. And you can like do research and find out about scientists being like, whoa, I spent my life's work dedicated to this, and they wrote about it in an ancient book, and they already knew about it. And like more and more and more, these things are coming out. Obviously, like all the different equations that fall into the pyramids, and how did we build that? How do we know all these things? And so the crossover between spirituality and science is, I don't really see them as anything different, to be totally honest. And if we go back in time to look at like ancient spirituality, essentially was science. That's what they were doing. They were trying to figure out what's going on. That's what we're doing with most science right now anyways. We're observing and trying to figure out what's going on. And so like I think modern day science is pretty much a religion. At the end of the day, it also is faith-based. It believes that something came from nothing. All of a sudden there was an explosion. Well, how? And so there's honestly so many arenas that I could go in with this. I think one of the so this is how I'll say it. So I've had conversations with biologists and physicists, psychologists, and neuroscientists, and then like pretty much they were saying something, and I was like, yeah, look, like it says this over here. It says this in this ancient text, and they're like, oh yeah, huh. And I've had conversations with like, imams or priests, and made the connection to science, and had to go, huh. Like there's this one part in the Bible where it says, when you pray to God, get behind closed doors so that your Father in secret shall see you, or something like this. And for me, that means meditating. I think it's get behind closed doors, sit down, shut up, close your eyes, and then pray. And all of a sudden he will see you. And I just had really interesting conversations with like in one of my businesses, I have an apostle from Africa, and had really great conversations with him about these types of things. And so I just don't see the need. It doesn't even make sense, honestly, that they're saying different things. Like we've got one hand that's saying like evolutionary theory, and another hand that's saying like the creationist theory. And I believe that I don't believe God created. I believe He's creating, and it's like we're in the process of the creation, whatever that is. And I also don't think God is like some guy up in the sky that just went like, let's create some stuff. I think it's larger than, I know it's larger than anything we can comprehend. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, I grew up more so, I feel like learning more about the spiritual side of things than I did the scientific side. So I feel like I learned a lot from the other side of the spectrum, whereas most kids grew up learning just the scientific side. And yes, there's been a huge divide between the two. I was really interested to hear that that was probably the thing that stuck out most to me on when I was like going through what you're all about, because there's been such a divide between those two things. And I've always been on the spiritual side of it. Like I myself was a part of that divide. Like I was, of course I believe in science, but I always felt like science was always out to get me, or like science is out to prove spirituality wrong. And vice versa, almost like they were never on the same side. I love to hear how you just completely bridged that and of course, like there's so many people bridging that today, being able to put words to the spiritual side of things that are honestly so unexplainable. They really need to be friends, these two sides, because now it's really exciting, because now the world can come together, and I think that we can now start to share this knowledge with everybody in a more logical sense, where spirituality is just not just for hippies and science is not just for atheists. Like we all can kind of have a common understanding. So it's really beautiful the way that you painted this picture. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that recognition. Yeah, it's funny because I came from the opposite side. Like my dad was teaching me about string theory when I was like 7. I remember him teaching me about it. And yeah, like it's just, I'm astounded at I'm astounded by it. And it'd be cool. You should look this up. You look up like a lot of quantum physicists and stuff. They end up like they start atheist and they go deep down the quantum physics like rabbit hole of trying to discover what's going on, and they arrive at a place where it's like it makes more sense that God created this than not.
Yeah.
They end up some sort of a believer a lot of the time.
Yeah, totally. I've heard about that. I've learned about that, and I think it's hilarious. It's kind of like, it just makes me think of like Deepak Chopra, who started off as a doctor and in this field that is very not spiritual, and then throughout his career has like turned into this guru of meditation and consciousness and all the things that the Western medicine, or I guess, yeah, like just that medicine system has never been really friends with. But I think that he's a beautiful bridge to that gap too, to be able to bring those two things together and have, it's almost like some people who need that type of person to explain it to them, like they need to hear it from a doctor, you know, or they need to hear it from a scientist. And that's okay, because some people just need the facts, and I can't relate because I believe in everything. But yeah, no, it's a really interesting conversation. I think we could get into this for far too long if we get into it too much.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be 5 hours.
It'd be great 5 hours. But so can you tell us more about your programs and what it is that you offer to the world, and your programs and your events? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you offer people? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, quickly, the 100 Days of Discipline, it's a 100-day online exercise challenge. We have easy, medium, and rough. It's designed to leave people non-dependent on personal trainers or the gym, After the 100 days, the idea is you don't need us, you want us. And it's a global support community. We've got coaching calls, tons of sponsor prizes. It's freaking amazing. It's $200, $2 a day. We have a guarantee that if you don't like it, we'll refund you your money. So there's no reason not to do it. And it's just phenomenal. Changed my life, changed so many people's lives. 10 out of 10 recommend it. And then with Human Potential Academy, so we have 5 pillars that we teach. And we have our program. Our program is called Courage. And so in Courage, we have this list of over 20 tenets that focus on psychological resilience and goal achievement. Okay. Psychological resilience and goal achievement. Then we have different coaches in the academy that specialize in different arenas. So for example, if someone wanted financial and spiritual, they'd come to me. If they want, say, like mental and financial, it'd be like me or maybe it'd be Selena. If they want emotional and physical, it'd be with Brian. And what's so amazing about the academy is we take in different coaches that want to be coaches within the academy. I say it's the and model. So like this coach specializes in breath work. This coach specializes in yoga. This coach specializes in just talk therapy. This coach specializes in like spreadsheets and sales. Every single coach teaches their skill plus the courage tenets. And how this program actually ended up coming to be was when I first started being a, air quotes, professional life coach. I just took on my first client. I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to help you, but I definitely will help you. And then in 2 months, results happened. It's like, okay, cool. I got another client. Results happened. I had another client. Results happened. And then I realized that they had different requests, physical pillar for that one, financial pillar for that one, blah, 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 blah. Different age, different culture, different socioeconomic demographics, so different amounts of money that they had, and 80% of the information that I provided them was the same. So I was like, oh, okay. And how Human Potential Academy actually really take off is one of my clients, her name's Elle, she came back to me and she was like, I want to teach this. And she showed me what I taught her. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, okay. And then boom, we started making the course and things just skyrocketed. I started getting lots of clients. They started getting incredible results. And then it was just so clearly like God's plan, because whatever type of individual I could have really used on the team, it's like they get scared the next day. Like, oh, I really want to host events, but I'm not really that confident hosting space. It's like, boom, here comes Brian, 10 years. It's like, oh, I really could use someone that's got a really strong back end organization side. Maybe they've done events. Boom, here comes Selena. Mm-hmm. And it was like, boom, one after another, until we had this like super squadron of people. And this is in the course of like 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so our program focuses on helping people achieve their goals through these psychological resilience practices, plus our goal achievement tools, plus whatever medicine the coach has, which will be corresponded based off of your individual needs. Mm. It works like a charm. And then for our events, so the event section is really cool because we've got all these different coaches with all these different talents. And so, especially in the summertime, Vancouver in the summertime, it's amazing for this stuff. But this, like, say this fascia coach and this yoga coach will come together and they'll make expand. It's like Selena and I are we're doing a sales and systems workshop. We're going to do like a sacred smoke workshop, fun, grab different things that different cultures smoke and And so we're making all these different types of events, which are really fun. But we have a 2-week event that we host 3 to 4 times a year. And we have an integration week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, financial, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Mm-hmm. Then we have an in-person intensive. It's 4 hours. We do a lot of breath work, meditation. We dive deep, a lot of dyad work, really build connections. And then the following week, we have integration week. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the 5 pillars. And that's been just phenomenal. And then 3 times a week, we host, right now, they're free community calls. So on Monday, we do goal and accountability with anyone who wants to hop on. And then on Thursdays, we do shadow work and gratitude. And on Fridays, we have a featured facilitator. And so for our events, it's really ramping up. We're providing so much value with these community calls and these different events.
Wow. Oh, sign me up. Damn.
It actually might work for you if you're in service, because we do it at 6 p.m. PST. So it'd be like right now we'd be on them. So I'd love to have you on every Monday, Thursday, Friday. Please.
Oh man.
Welcome.
Oh, 100%. I'm already committed in my mind. I'm taking your course. This is, and you know what? I like I told you about the next level course. I used to get up when I was taking that, I would be up from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. for a whole 4 days in a row, because of the time difference. So I'm committed. I don't even care about the time difference.
Love it.
So now it's all about the tour guiding stuff. But anyways, can you tell us about what would the timeline look like? Okay, so you said that it's 3 days a week for that course. And how many months or sorry?
Yeah, so we have community calls, which are totally separate from the course.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Those are free. Anybody can come attend. We're just providing value, creating community, an open container. We do a little bit of breath work. Community calls are separate. For the Courage program, it's 2 calls a week for 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 calls a week for 3 months. We like to bookend our weeks, and we call them nature and nurture calls. So nature is in the beginning, it's typically more like information intensive, more like, think of it's more like business, even if you're not coming for business. It's more like, here's info, here's what we're going to do this week. And then Friday or the nurture call rather is more like, did it work? If so, how do you feel? If not, why not? How do you feel? We do breath work, more like intentional stuff. And so we bookend it with the nature nurture calls. It's 2 calls a week for 3 months.
Okay. And then that's also separate from the 5 days of the 5 pillars, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So let me just break it down clearly. So we've got our Courage program, which is where you work with your corresponding coach. 2 calls a week, 3 months. We have our HICA events, which is held 3 or 4 times a year, and it's a 2-week intensive. And then we have our community calls, which are free every single week, Monday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for breaking that down.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds incredible. And I want to ask you now, what is your vision for both? And I want to ask you 2 different visions if they're different. What's your vision for your life that you see overall in the course of your life, what you want to create in the world for yourself and for the world? And then I also want to know if this is different. What's your vision for the world? And what's your vision for this organization?
As of now, for me, they are very, very intertwined, if not the same. I'm, incredibly passionate about self-development and my own journey. And I really live and love and get lit up when I'm coaching and when I'm facilitating and holding space. Like I love the community calls. I love coaching people. I love helping people. Like I mentioned, the one thing that was like my big owie was that people that I loved were suffering and not taking the advice that I had. I just live for it. I love it so much. The vision that I've got as of right now is a kids' school, which we're already taking steps towards right now. It's looking like we're going to have the opportunity to work with an agency and work with grade 9 and grade 10 students to equip them with psychological resilience, meditation, hopefully how to do taxes, all that stuff. which is really phenomenal. And that's what's lit me up. Like for a while, for a long, long while, like I've just known that I want to have a school, like a long while now, almost a decade, long before the spiritual awakenings. And so long-term vision, I see us having one significant, almost like university research-esque location headquarters, and then almost like branches, maybe like a Kumons type thing all over the world. I'd like to scale us to the point where we can just go to less fortunate countries and educate them how to be an entrepreneur, how to maintain alpha brainwave state. I'd like to help all four corners of the globe acquire the information, leadership, and community that we are creating. Which is just, it really gets me excited about. Mm-hmm. And then for the events side of things, we're going to have probably a more like public type of retreat space, likely in Asia, which is, like think maybe like level 1 retreats for a spiritual, holistic getaway. And then we're going to have a more like, let's call it intense experience. Might also be in Asia, it might be in Africa, it might be in South America, something like that. A more like intense, like, type of retreat space where we'll do various types of practices to help people crack open their spiritual pillar and open their eyes. So those would be the two visions, and it's hard for me to separate myself from those right now because it's really what I live for.
Wow. Yet another similarity, because a future goal, a way future goal of mine is to also have a retreat, some sort of hippie commune, like, or even like have my own commune, or like have a retreat that is very similar to the one you're talking about. And I'm definitely going to make it to yours when you find out when and where that's going to be, by the way. That's a beautiful vision. And I see so much greatness in you, and I have no doubts that you're going to achieve that. It's really incredible what you've already created. How old are you, by the way? I'm very curious.
I'm 30.
30. Well, you've achieved quite a lot.
In April.
Okay. Hey, you should say you're 29 then. You only have you only have a little bit longer to say you're still 20. Come on. You're the only person I know that's ever going to round up.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. There's one thing I've learned, that the laps around the fireball don't mean a whole bunch.
It's true. It's true. There's a lot more important things going on.
29 years and 10 months.
Incredible. It's incredible what you've created in that, in this 30 years, 29 years. I'm truly inspired by everything that you've talked about.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I think I also just wanted to ask, before we finish up, what do you see possible for those who are listening to this, to those who are in your organization now and who are potentially going to come into it? What do you see possible for them through taking your courses and such?
Honestly, calmness and control. Like all the information is accessible, right? All the information that we teach is accessible, but and my team's really brought this to my attention. It's like how we've packaged it, how we've laid it out, and then the accountability that we have throughout it is like truly within the first even 2 to 3 weeks, we provide you with the red pill. Like, you know who you are, why you're doing the things that you're doing, and what's even more important than that is you're able to recognize who other people are and why they're doing the things that they're doing. Because 99 out of 100 times what takes away our peace is something that someone else has done. It's rarely actually something that we've done. And it's like the knowledge, and like I said, the awareness is the seed of spirituality and self-development and business development, and anything development starts with awareness. And our program equips people with an understanding so they're not living in unknown chaos anymore. They actually can look at what is going on and recognize why it is going that way, and then take the necessary actions, which that is easier said than done most times, but at least they know what's going on now, and then they can achieve whatever goal they want. And this has been for all of our clients. And so if they were to get involved with our program, whatever they wanted to do, as long as it's not like, I mean, it's not yet, like I want to fly to the moon, but they can achieve whatever goals they desire to achieve when they run through our program, or at the very least, the tools and the knowledge to do so. So it will remove the unknowns of why your life is the way that it is completely. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like it removes the unknowns of the past and present, and almost embraces the unknowns that are in the future, because those unknowns are beautiful and so necessary, and so that it balances those unknowns.
Well, the first thing that we teach about, and the foundation of the whole program, is something called AQ. So we have IQ, which is intelligent quotient. How do you learn, remember, execute? There's EQ. We spoke about that. Recognize emotions in others. But there's AQ, which is called adversity quotient, or adaptability quotient. And it was actually coined in 1997. It's a predictor of longevity, happiness, ability to learn, ability to adapt. Like, a few important things that we have are pretty much the majority of our program that's the foundation of it. So when adversity hits you, not if, when things don't go according to plan, how much does it impact you? How much does it impact your nervous system and affect the way that you're moving? And then the adaptability quotient, how do you adapt to this new reality that you're living through? And so that is what our program really, truly is.
Oh, excellent. I'm so excited to take it. Oh my goodness. Excellent. Oh, and I just have one clarifying thing. So is the 100-day challenge, is that more of a physical side? I know it is very, very physical, but or is it all of the pillars are involved in that one as well, I assume? Or does it focus more on the one pillar, or is it very same for all of them?
Yeah, so it's a separate business. I run it with a separate person. But it is, we say it's a mental and emotional challenge but we use the physical pillar to strengthen the emotional and the mental pillar, because there's no easier way to train your discipline than exercising every day. It's the easiest way to train it, because guaranteed you're not going to want to exercise every single day out of the 100. And then you exercise that. I don't want to do it, but I know I should do it. And more importantly, I made a promise to myself that I was going to do it, and then following through on it. And so it's definitely a fitness challenge, but easy is for everybody. We have elderly over 70 in doing easy right now, postpartum women, and we had a guy with vagus nerve damage. So it's just about showing up every single day, but you can't really just say it's a physical challenge. It's daily fitness, but it's a mental and emotional one. You'll see when you're on day 70 and you're ready to pack it in.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad that you clarified that. It's so similar to, I just had my brother on actually a couple weeks ago, my podcast. And I think that you should definitely listen to that episode, because it's very similar. He's been doing 75 hard, and it's a mental toughness challenge as well. But there is a physical aspect of it, but it's mental, because and it's physical, and it's not like it's working out every day, and then many other things. I think that you would eat that thing up. So I think you should definitely take a look at it. But
we actually took the we had people saying, oh, like 75 hard. And so we actually made something called vices and virtues. So we have vices and virtues in the 100-day discipline challenge, which is like you can like stop drinking coffee or like go to bed before midnight every day, read 10 pages a day. So we incorporated all of those things. Essentially what we do is like the 75 hard, only it's 100 days with a whole bunch more value and a supportive community and like an app. And like, it's essentially what our program is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. Well, thank you so much for all of that. I want to ask you also if there's anything else that's on your heart that you want to share, any questions you have, or anything you want to say that you think needs to be said before we end.
I think I would probably just want to say that, for Human Potential Academy, we're always looking for more coaches and more facilitators to come on board. We want to get up to 20 coaches. And then once we've got the 20, we're going to pretty much close the doors and focus on developing those people that come in. And so I would just want to extend that there's immense opportunity for, the light workers, healers, coaches, people that are trying to help other people, whether it's financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. There's opportunity here with us. And there's that African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And within our operation, it's just amazing how the team comes together to do all of these different things that it takes to be an entrepreneur. Like life coaches don't know how to do social media. They don't know how to do a website. They don't know how to do sales. They don't know. And we have a team of people that specialize in all these different areas. And so it's like really a way for the people to come in and be able to focus on their craft. And I just would love to spread that message as well, that we're always looking to expand and bring on new people. Yeah. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for getting on here. It was fun. We had some back and forth. And it's been cool following you over these past couple of weeks. I know you're somewhere in the Philippines right now. I really do appreciate your time, and you did a great job. Like your questions were awesome, and I had a lot of fun. That was really cool.
Oh, thanks so much, Matthew. It's been so lovely talking with you. You're a very inspiring person, and I think we're definitely going to be able to keep this relationship going, because we both live in I used to, whatever. We both are from Vancouver, and so when and if I ever come home, I'm definitely going to have to meet up with you, come to your events, and I think that we can work together on so many different levels throughout our lives as we grow and change the world. And I feel like I can see a beautiful integration with the work that we're doing. So I'd love to have you on again in the future. And we'll stay in touch. And it's been amazing having you here, really.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been really, really fun. I can definitely see our wires crossing somewhere. We'll get on a less, or maybe a more formal call. I don't know. We'll get on another call the next time you're available. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. You take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Friendly Frequencies podcast. I would absolutely love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes and also Spotify or wherever you're listening to the podcast through. And what I will do is, for anybody that leaves me a review and sends me a screenshot through Instagram, I will personally send you my 30+ hour playlist. This playlist is very special to me. It has been crafted by me for the last 3 years, and I've never met a person who does not love it. And this is just another way that we can be beautifully connected through creativity. So send me a picture of your review. My Instagram is Friendly Frequencies, and I cannot wait to share this music with you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening and for supporting me along this journey. I appreciate you. I love you, and have a good one. I'll see you next week.